Morning.
Morning.
Medically, two new additions to the list. Dak Prescott will be just limited to drills today, and Tyron Smith will not practice. He's got some elbow tendonitis that we're dealing with, or he's dealing with. With that, David, let's get started.
Mike, can you talk? While the organization has no long-term concerns with Dak, can you just talk about when you have an arm injury that early in camp with the quarterback, how you manage it? I assume you'll go slower rather than too quick as far as getting him in, and just how you're looking at managing him over these next week to 2 weeks.
Well, I think it's like anything. I mean, when it's good that you can catch a fatigue injury early. So I think it's just more staying in front of what he has. So it's like anything in this game. When one player doesn't practice, it's an opportunity for others. So it's a really good opportunity for Garrett, Ben, and Cooper. So that's the big picture part of it for the quarterbacks. But Dak will still do all the drill work, and he'll be able to do the mock games. And but we're just really going to cut out the throwing here for probably a few days.
How soon do you anticipate he could resume throwing?
A few days, 2-3 days. Is that a couple days? A few days?
Two's a couple.
I'm trying to buy a little flexibility there, so give it to me, please.
Several.
Well, did he throw too much leading up to camp? Did he throw too much the first few days of camp?
I mean, I'm not a doctor. I get to talk about this stuff a lot. I think it could be. I think when you have a fatigue injury, you can overanalyze it. But based on the location, the information that I have, it's not of high concern, and I think it was smart that he pulled up when he did.
What would you describe his mindset? Because he's coming back, obviously, from the ankle injury. How do you think was he down when he had to tell you that I got this thing?
Oh, definitely. I mean, he didn't want to leave the practice field, but I thought it was just important to get him in there and find out exactly what it was, and have the scan, and just to be smart. But it's his birthday today, so I think he'll be okay.
You talk about the confidence level of the backup quarterbacks. Certainly, you guys brought in a couple of veterans that worked out, didn't sign them, but they still have just 2 starts between them.
Yeah, no doubt. It's a young group, but I think it's like anything. These guys have been. It's our second year working with them, so obviously there's a confidence that we have in the group, and frankly, the opportunity that they have to get these live full team reps will be a benefit not only to them, but it'll be a benefit to us to see them work and run the offense. And particularly, we're still heavy into the situation work, so there'll be a bunch of new things that'll happen today for everybody, and this will be a great experience for those guys.
What did you make of the first full practice in terms of backup quarterbacks without Dak yesterday, the 5 interceptions that were there?
Well, 5 interceptions, I mean, that's never a good day. I mean, it's I have to be 50% happy for the defense, but quarterbacks, you don't want to see that, so it's you go through the decision making, why they happen, and so it's a learning experience. I think negative experiences as far as results are great opportunities to learn from. I think we need to make sure we do that as a football team. I think one of the growing focuses for our team, I thought last year when we did have the valleys, we stayed in them too long. So I'm looking for quicker, higher responses when we hit adverse situations. So I think today will be a great experience for our offense to bounce back.
What did you see from Gilbert last year beyond the Pittsburgh game that made you comfortable coming into this camp with him as the backup?
Well, one thing about Garrett and I think like most of these guys, Ben DiNucci started playing quarterback probably later in life compared to Cooper and Garrett. Garrett's played a lot of football. I mean, he's Garrett and Cooper are coach smart. They have great understanding of what's going on. I mean, Cooper made a check-in and protection yesterday. That's something that you would see more in a game plan environment during a regular season game, and particularly seeing the new disguise from the defense and the way he did it at the line of scrimmage. It's those are the little things that you're very impressed with. That's not seen by the common eye. So. These guys have great football minds. That's definitely a big part of why we have confidence in them. So, quarterback reps are so hard to come by, but I think these guys are what you're looking for, because your backup player, backup quarterback particularly, they just don't get a lot of reps. They don't get a lot of team opportunities. So this will be good for those guys.
Mike, one of your jobs is coaching the coaches, and when you see Kellen and Doug and how they work with those guys, do you see some value in the fact that they've been in that position, being a backup before, and kind of know what it's like with those limited opportunities and mental reps?
Definitely. I think the fact that they do have experience playing the position, I think it's definitely an asset. But I think when I look at the design of the quarterback room, I think the personalities, the background plays a big part into that. Scott Tolzien's another young man that gives excellent insights. So it's a very, very good room as far as how it all comes together. So I love the way those guys work together. They're very efficient, very exact. But I think the quarterbacks in general definitely have a comfort of being there, being coached or being around people that have been there before.
Anything changes about Dak playing in the preseason? You said last week that was pretty important that he got some work in the preseason.
Yeah, I'm based on what Jim has told me in the medical report yesterday. I don't see us getting away from our preliminary plan.
Was there an emphasis already ahead of this injury to Dak to make sure that backups got more reps, given what happened last season, going through 4 QBs? I know it is hard to get backup quarterbacks experience again.
Definitely, but I think like every team, every head coach is going through it. I mean, we're on more of a scripted training camp regiment than ever before. I think the 11-hour workday for the veterans is, it's. I would think the schedules are probably very similar if you went around the league as far as the amount of work that you can do. So, I mean, the walkthroughs. I don't know if we could walk through more than we are right now. I feel our plan and the efficiency of how we're able to interact with the players and try to show them as many different looks. I think we're definitely hitting a target there from what I'm looking for. But yeah, but let's not forget, Dak's coming back off a major injury too, so that's part of it. You have to get your starter ready, and that just doesn't always mean the reps that he needs. It's because frankly a big focus each and every year is to get the cadence, the timing, the rhythm. You got offensive linemen that didn't play last year too, so all that has to come together. So all those things are factored into who gets reps and how many they get.
Too, not having Amari and Michael Gallup out there as well.
Definitely. Hey, when players miss practice, it's not a good thing. I mean, that's why we practice. Just look at the statistical data behind consecutive starts by an offensive line. I mean, when your offensive line, lines up and plays 16 weeks, your percentage of winning goes way up. I mean, there's all kinds of data that supports the importance of guys playing as many games together as possible. So health is a big part of this.
Is there any thought that Dak may have hurt himself compensating a bit for the injury, and there needs to be a mechanical adjustment when he's throwing?
I don't think so. I think Dak is not only has very good fundamental training and as far as his regiment, but both, within the organization and who what he does outside of his time at the Star. But yeah, I don't see this injury tied to this current injury tied to last year's injury.
What have you thought of what you've seen of Steele and Secchi so far, and Ball, the little bit that he's worked in team?
Steele, number one, I think is definitely a great example of a player taking a second-year jump. I mean, he's what he's done in the weight room, just what he's done with his body. He's definitely, he won an award for one of the strength conditioning awards. So he's off to a good start. I really liked it. Way he's looked so far, and the two young guys are just, they're just getting started. So,
what about Secchi? He's been around a while.
Yeah. Oh, he's fitting in. I think he's just knocking off some rust and really just getting used to the language. I mean, it's a language transition for Ty.
Mike, you talked about the offense's missed assignments and mental errors a couple days ago, and we asked Dalton Schultz about that. He gave the defense credit for how they've been disguising their coverages. Yeah. Can you talk about how you've seen that from the defense, and is that different at all from what you were seeing from them in practice last year?
Well, we didn't have this last year, at this level. So I mean, I don't think that's that's not a comparable that I don't really use. So, but disguise has definitely been the progression of how we're doing it, the common disguises of the mans and zones, the pressures and the man, the pressures looking like the man coverages and all that. So Dan and the staff, they've put together an excellent staff, but you can see the players are really comfortable with it. And it's just like anything, when you have success, the confidence builds, and it's great for our defense because their confidence. They've put together two very productive practices here. And it's good. This will be good for the defense not only to respond to that, but this is great for our quarterbacks and our protection unit.
Will Gilbert get all of the snaps that Dak normally would, or do you want to try to work a few in with the other guys?
It'll be close. I mean, but no, we need to get Ben in there. We need to get Cooper going. Cooper missed a couple days, so get those guys in there.
Kelvin Joseph, he seemed to be a little bit limited in terms of his participation yesterday. Is there any sort of update there?
No, I mean just reps that are distributed. Number one, you got some surprise situation. You're gonna have a surprise situation in the practice today that the coach, no one's even had a chance to plan for. So that just like we did yesterday. So those reps just kind of go based on who's in there and the personnel group. So that's why you'll see some fluctuation. Players' GPS scores, so reps are more about not just like, hey, we think this guy's doing better than that. There's a lot more going into that. So we go through the data at night and we distribute them because this is a long season. We need everybody. This is a long training camp. So that affects the GPS scores, affects some of the guys' reps because we had some guys that were really high yesterday.
How's Kelvin done so far?
He's doing good. No, he's doing good. He definitely fits in. He's I'd love his competitive nature, but for a young guy, it's not too big for him. That's for sure.
What can we expect from Malik Hooker today?
He's coming on. I just think him for where he's come from with the injury, trying to adapt to this environment. We're going to bring him along slow.
Just talking about with the reasons for all the fluctuations with personnel, how do you balance doing that with to your earlier point about the offensive line having continuity and giving guys a chance to work with the same people consistently?
Well, the health of the player is number one. I mean, that's a priority. I mean, because at the end of the day, availability is what we need. So if there's a question, I mean, Tyron Smith's a perfect example. I mean, so if you have something that comes up, you put that to the front of the line. So that's the starting point, and then we're just trying to get as many different combinations as possible, starting with the groups that we're trying to build off of, particularly whether it's 11, 12 personnel, and you'll see us starting to get into some short yardage and goal line 4-minute backed up offenses. So you'll see some 2-back sets and a little more phone booth type football coming. So that'll all be personnel driven.
Expect Gallup or Jordan Lewis to come back today, or are they still doing a couple more days?
Jordan may have a chance limited. Michael is still limited, so I'll check on those guys after the walkthrough here.
What's your view on Zeke's workload after 5 years and what that means for running backs these days?
Well, I think at this point you got to be conscientious of it because when you look at a player like Zeke, because of what he's done at the level, the volume that he's done early in his year, I think you have to be cognizant of the long road. I mean, I've always viewed training camp and particularly early season football. Now, the last place I worked, we were very young, because of our personnel philosophy. So there was always a bigger gap between our younger players and older players. So we played young players early all the time. And as a coach, it takes a while to get used to that. But the point I'm making is, by November, December, those young guys were able to contribute. So we got Tony Pollard. Rico's looked really good. Shaywo is off to a good camp. So you have some younger guys that can play and produce. So, it's not necessary for Zeke to run the ball 25 times, 30 times a game because, the most important thing is when you get into December, January football, you want him to be in top form to be able to run the ball 25, 30 times if needed. So that's the way I've always viewed it, particularly at that position.
You mentioned, or last year there was no true fullback on this roster. You moved your tight ends and had them kind of fill that role. Is that something that's open as a coaching staff, or there's a possibility for a fullback, a true fullback on this roster, or how do you view that position and how it fits?
Definitely. Just in simple terms. I mean, you have one back offense, two back offense, and you have no backs, empty offense. So your two back schemes are definitely, the last couple of years have increased. I mean, it's the roles and the way the game's being played is so much more wide open. But with that, the two back run game is coming back in. You'll see it the next couple of practices because of what I've already said with the short yards goal line backed up 4 minute. So we do have a little more two back offense in our scheme this year compared to last year. So and on the flip side of it, our defense needs it, because we're gonna see it more than we've seen it. So I mean, base defense 5 or 6 years ago was probably 15-17%. I mean, the teams I coach, now it's pushing 25, maybe 30%. So you got to be cognizant of those trends, and we are because this time of year, Dan needs to see the two back stuff. So, but with that, we need to do a little more of it because you need to line up and run the ball when you want to run the ball, no matter what they're in too. So we need to have some more of that. We don't want to be where we're checking it all the time and just playing exclusively one back offense.
Dowdle better from a year ago?
I'm sorry?
Dowdle, how is he better?
Well, I'll tell you, he's, last year, I just think with everything going on, he wasn't in NFL shape. Number one, I think it took him a while to get accustomed to, the conditioning of all this. And I think he's, like a lot of younger guys, he kind of was feeling his way around. But, I think, you saw him in the middle of the season, had the opportunity with the kickoff return. So, I mean, he has a lot of natural run instinct that we've been impressed with, and I think when he got out here just from day one, you could see it in the OTAs, frankly, that he's one of those guys that's taking that second-year jump and is more mature. But I think he's having a nice camp.
Anything planned for Dak's birthday, with it being an off day tomorrow?
It's top secret. Yeah.
Mike, will you have John Fossil run another Jeopardy game this training camp? And if so, how does that factor into your team camaraderie?
Well, I mean, we'll have a group dynamic event, and Jeopardy was popular, so we'll see how that sorts out. Yeah.
With short yards and goal line, do you go live? Is that something that almost has to, or
no, we won't go live. It's I've done it both ways. I think you can get done with it'll be like a normal team period, just the emphasis period, I guess the way I would explain it.
Have you ever tried going live over the course of your
I've been part of live in the past.
What was your takeaway in terms of it not being worthwhile?
Well, I just think it's like anything. Every practice that you put together, you assess risk, injury risk, and how can you make it safer, but still you want to get things done. I mean, everybody has an opinion on it, but it's if you break it down for as number of times in the season that you're in it, I don't think it's worth coming out here and having a 20-play goal line scrimmage. I don't think it's necessary.
Sure, yardage stuff that you're trying to do today, how big is that evaluation for your interior offensive linemen?
Frankly, we're trying to get scheme. It's more about getting the scheme taught that, practice is important. You want the competitive nature and all those things, but, from the big picture, that I'm looking at, I just want to make sure we're getting the video so we can teach off and get it corrected and make sure that, as we get through these installs, particularly next week, we'll just have the one practice before we go to Pittsburgh, but then, follow that before we go into Arizona. We'll have a chance to clean some of these things up just to make sure we feel we're sound in everything that we're doing.
What are some of the targets you'd still like to see this team hit ahead of the Hall of Fame game, which is a week away?
Just to get through the 8 installs and hopefully not have a bunch of things we hope our list isn't very long of what we feel that we need more time on. So, because you see the defenses, they're starting to get back through their base calls. They had a pretty challenging install yesterday for the offense, and so then the offense will catch up to the defense. So, yeah, I just want to get through these 8 installs, get everything in. We had a chance to do that in the spring and just kind of really settle in because, we probably won't carry every one of these calls defensively. We've got a couple things we're just kind of looking at. Same thing with Kellen. We have some things with the offense deceptively and things probably some of the action passing game that we need to get the live reps to evaluate if we want to carry it forward. Thank you.